I'm pretty sure you've already heard or seen at this point a million different videos from YouTubers talking about how bad the economy is in the US right now. The cost of living continues to rise while wages are only going down. People are on the verge of being homeless and just giving up altogether. And unfortunately, this is just the reality that we live in now. And I feel like at this point, it doesn't really matter what age you are. I mean, everybody's out here struggling and we just can't afford to live anymore. And a lot of us are trying to hold out hope just day by day that things are going to get better. But I really don't see it getting any better. It's just only going to get worse, it seems. Like I said, there's a million other YouTubers talking about this, but I feel the more videos on it, the better, because believe it or not, there's so many people, and I know some personally in my life, who don't believe this is something that's actually happening. Like, they're denying it. But you have to stop and think. I mean, why do you think that is? Why do they not believe it? Well, I can tell you why, and from what I've seen, it's mainly those who are very privileged and have a lot of money, those who might be millionaires. And I'm not saying that just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you don't go through your own struggles. But at the same time, I can't remember, the last time I ever heard a celebrity or a popular influencer talking about how they couldn't afford groceries right now. But if you also know anyone in your life who does not believe this is really happening right now, I encourage you to show them as many of these cost of living videos as you can. I'm also really curious to see what others are saying about this situation right now, and I just wanted to read you guys a couple of comments, so let's go ahead and get into it. This person says, I admit I have given up on everything. I have let all my bills pile up. I don't care if things get paid or not. I don't go anywhere or talk to anyone. Everything seems pointless. I've never felt like this, and I've always been responsible and level-headed, but things have gotten so bad and it feels like I'm constantly fighting an uphill battle and on the verge of snapping. I'm not living anymore. I'm surviving barely. It's really sad for me to admit, but I feel that as of recently, I can relate a lot with what this person had to say. And when they said that everything just seems pointless and they're not going anywhere, they're not talking to anyone, that's kind of what I'm going through right now. And maybe some of you are too, where, it's like you go to work every day, you're just trying to work hard and hustle, just trying to make money to pay the bills off, and just not really having time to, hang out with your friends or really go anywhere else. And, also because you probably just can't afford it. And what starts to make everything feel so pointless is when you're in this constant cycle of just getting up every day, going to work, trying to make ends meet, but it just doesn't seem like it's doing it for you. And then, you're having to sacrifice your social life and so many other things where it feels like you're just surviving and existing. And, that's just not how life should be. Life should not be all about work. We should be able to go out there and experience life with the people that we love most. Now, this person says, we are quietly calling it the silent depression. I am a 72-year-old woman. Not all boomers went to university, bought stocks and bonds, lived a good life, were university educated. I have never told people to work harder. I have been watching the changes taking place for the last 12 years. I am sympathizing with everyone, people struggling to buy food, keep a roof over their head, and many are living in their vehicles. Now, it's always nice to see the older generations sympathizing with the younger ones, because they understand that we live in a totally different time frame and things were not what they used to be, let's say 30, 40 years ago, or even just 10 years ago, to put it that way. Because you're always going to meet those older people that will tell you, well, when I was your age, I was able to afford a house. And I'm always thinking, well, no disrespect, and it was nice that you were able to do that in that time. But this is a different time. And have you not seen what the cost of buying a house is today? Let alone an apartment. This lady had also said in her comment that many people are starting to live in their vehicles because many are just on the verge of being homeless. And, I've heard a lot of crazy things recently where people are living out in the woods in a tent and they're living in storage units. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. But for many, and for myself as well, I live back with my grandmother. And I always tell people that if you have the opportunity to move back in with your parents, your grandparents, or who's ever willing to take you in, I mean, do not take that for granted, because a lot of people don't have that option. I now wanted to read you guys one last comment. It says, I'm 61 and I remember when I made $16 an hour and I had more disposable income to blow and the free time to blow it than I do now making $37 an hour. My point is, I agree with these young people who are working their butts off and getting nowhere. Wages have not kept up with the cost of living and the insane inflation is hurting everyone. Something is going to have to break, or being homeless will be the new norm. Personally, this is intentionally being done for a sinister purpose, but that's another discussion. Again, it's always nice to see older people sympathizing and understanding what's going on right now. And like he said, he thinks this is something that's intentional going on for a very sinister purpose. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but I agree. I think it's about control and just draining the life out of us until we have no more left. But whatever you want to believe is what you want to believe. So let's just leave it at that. Now, I just want to say this, that I do understand people can't always play the victim or use the excuse of, well, the economy's so bad, I just can't afford to live anymore. Because a lot of people do make bad decisions when it comes to their spending, and I know I have in the past, but I've definitely been trying to get better over the past year. But at the same time, I think about those people who, work so hard and might have to take on 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and things just are not working out in their favor, and the bills just continue to pile up and up, and they're just still feeling like they're only surviving. That's actually what I've had to do recently as well, is take up a second job, because the job market out here right now is just very discouraging. And me being out of college for 3 years, with a degree, it's been very hard to find a job that pays well. And also a lot of jobs just aren't wanting to give people enough hours either. The other day at one of my jobs, I actually met this nurse who had come in and we were just talking about our fields, and she was telling me that, they're not really even paying nurses that well either. And she had to end up getting a second job herself, working back at Buffalo Wild Wings. The other day I also heard a story about this 70-year-old woman who couldn't afford to retire, and she was living off of her Social Security, which was not helping her pay all of her bills, to where, she had to go back and find a job. And at that age, she never thought it would be like that. And your life shouldn't be like that when you reach that age, because she's probably worked hard her entire life. And that's also a fear that these younger generations have, to where they fear they're not going to be able to retire. And not even just that. I mean, it's the fear of not ever being able to, buy a house, have kids, have friends, or a relationship, just because we can't afford it. But I think for a lot of us who really see the bigger picture here, we can agree that, it's not always the result of bad budgeting or laziness, because a lot of us are working really hard to make ends meet. But I think we all know it's just a rigged game where the people at the top are profiting while those of us at the bottom are just considered wage slaves. A lot of us are asking questions right now. When will things go back to normal? What's going to have to happen to do so? But I just don't see it ever going back to normal. And I don't know. I just feel like something even worse is coming, and I want to say prepare for it, but at the same time, it almost feels like you can't, if that makes sense. I've also heard many saying that they're just giving up at this point, and I guess interpret that any way you want to, but the way I see it is people just, you know, going and spending whatever they want and putting themselves in debt because, you know, they just want to live life. And in a way, I can't really blame them because, you know, I had seen in somebody else's video, they were talking about the older lady going to have to work again. You know, they're just like, I might as well, because I mean, I'm just going to end up like her at that age anyway. But it does seem that since life has become this way, it's really humbled a lot of people to the point where things that we probably found boring or didn't really enjoy before are just seen as these great opportunities if we get the time to do so. Let's just say like reading a book or going for a walk down your street if you're always at work all the time or stuck inside the house. You know, it's just the little things that we're starting to appreciate more. But I just want to let you guys know that if you're struggling in this economy right now, you are not alone. And if you want to leave me a comment, just let me know how it's going for you. And if you want to try to leave some words of wisdom for others, you know, it's greatly appreciated. But I hope you guys stay blessed. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.